Okay, let's jump right into this. We are living in a time where everyone has a megaphone. Advice is quite literally just a tap away. You scroll through your feed and you'll find tips on pretty much everything, right? From fixing a leaky pipe to negotiating your salary. But recently, a really alarming trend has taken hold in these online spaces. People are taking complex, incredibly serious legal and social advice from unverified viral narratives. We're talking about this online echo chamber that spreads a very specific, unified message about the child welfare system. It's dressed up as empowerment, but as we're going to see in this explainer today, it is fundamentally dangerous. And listen, it's absolutely crucial to understand that this isn't just an issue for one specific group. Social media algorithms push this narrative into feeds across every single demographic. It targets parents in wealthy suburbs, inner city neighborhoods, and rural communities alike, completely regardless of ethnic background or socioeconomic status. Taking safeguarding advice from social media isn't just misguided, it is, quite literally, a matter of life and death. Section 1, the social media trap. You have almost certainly seen some variation of this online. Viral videos, impassioned forum posts, heavily shared graphics, all repeating the exact same mantra. Never let social workers in your home, block the door, don't cooperate with the system. The narrative heavily sells the idea that social workers are just out to unjustly tear families apart, and that the absolute only way to protect your family is to put up a wall. Now, it's pretty easy to see why this catches fire, isn't it? It plays on a parent's most primal instinct to protect their children. But here is the reality of what this actually creates. It creates a digital fortress. You might think you're building a wall of protection with those locked doors and smartphones, shielding the family from outside interference, but by locking out professionals, you're actually building a cage. You aren't just locking out the system, you are locking in whatever is happening behind closed doors. So, why do these influencers sound so convincing? Well, they're incredibly skilled at taking legitimate, totally understandable anxieties that parents have and twisting them into outright paranoia. They make you feel like it's you against the world. So, the really crucial question we need to ask ourselves is this: what actually happens when we follow narratives that actively undermine safeguarding? When the internet tells you to slam the door and you listen, what are the real-world consequences? We have to look past the confident rhetoric, the ring lights, and the millions of views. We have to confront the hard, documented facts of what occurs when social work intervention is actively resisted. Because history tells us exactly what happens, and it is devastating. Section 2, a horrifying reality. I want you to consider one of the clearest, most tragic examples on record, the case of baby Peter Connolly in Haringey back in 2007. Looking at this timeline, it's obvious this wasn't a sudden, isolated incident that happened overnight. No, this was months and months of severe, ongoing abuse. And during those months, there were repeated visits from various agencies. We're talking health visitors, police officers, medical professionals, and social workers. They were all there trying to intervene. But the danger just kept escalating, incredibly fast. Why? Because the adults around the child actively blocked, distorted, and failed to engage properly with the safeguarding concerns. They basically used distraction and manipulation to avoid detection. They would do things like deliberately smear chocolate on the child's face to hide bruises, or claim serious injuries were just typical toddler accidents. They presented a highly calculated false reality. And the tragic result? The agencies, totally confused and misled by this false front, failed to effectively challenge a situation. That resistance and manipulation directly paved the way for preventable death. The official reports on baby Peter Connolly used this exact word: horrifying. They stated, absolutely, definitively, that his death could and should have been prevented. And this tragically illustrates the darkest possible outcome of resisting intervention. When adults fail to engage with safeguarding, or when they actively construct barriers to keep professionals from seeing the truth, a massive systemic failure happens. The safety net that is literally designed to catch the vulnerable gets cut to pieces by those very barriers. And the ultimate price? It's paid by the most vulnerable person in the room, the child who cannot speak for themselves. This isn't just theory, guys. This is history. Section 3, disguised compliance explained. So how exactly do abusers hide in plain sight, especially when professionals are actively knocking on the door and asking questions? Well, the answer lies in a clinical concept called disguised compliance. It's defined as a situation where apparent cooperation by adults is used to block, distort, or resist intervention. It completely stops professionals from understanding the true level of harm happening inside the home. Now notice the key phrase here: apparent cooperation. It doesn't always look like screaming and shouting at the front door or aggressively chasing someone off the porch. Sometimes it looks like attending a mandated meeting but refusing to speak a single word. It might look like aggressively cleaning a house right before a scheduled visit, making everything look absolutely perfect for an hour, but neglecting it entirely the rest of the week.
Or it looks like nodding, smiling, and agreeing to a safety plan with zero intention of actually following it. It is a highly effective, deeply manipulative smokescreen.
The NSPCC actually identifies a very specific chain reaction of failure here. First, that apparent cooperation creates a false picture. The professionals walk away thinking, okay, progress is being made, the environment is improving. Second, because of that false picture, proper risk assessment is delayed or just prevented entirely. I mean, a social worker simply cannot assess a risk they are artificially barred from seeing, right? Third, this allows cases to drift. Files just sit on desks. The essential urgency of the situation gets totally lost in bureaucracy and endless scheduling, while the child remains in the exact same danger. And finally, the harm continues, completely undetected. This is the exact systemic failure that happens when parents or carers decide to follow online advice to resist, block, or manipulate the professionals who are trying to help. Section 4. The cost of resistance. We really have to contrast the illusion being sold online with the reality of what actually happens on the ground. On one hand, we have the false picture. This is that social media narrative spanning across literally every community. It tells you that by resisting help and locking out social workers, you are somehow protecting your family from a corrupt system. And yeah, it feels empowering. It gets likes, shares, and thousands of supportive comments from complete strangers. But then we have the reality. And this trap, it does not discriminate. Whether you live in a multi-million-dollar home or a cramped apartment, when you follow those narratives and create a wall of disguised compliance or outright refusal, children are left completely exposed. Those social media likes do absolutely nothing to protect a child trapped behind a wall of manipulation. And as we saw with the 2007 case, in the worst instances, that failure to engage ends in preventable death. Let's be straight talking and absolutely clear about this. Social media is not a safeguarding expert. The person in that viral video telling you to never let a social worker into your home, they do not know your situation, and they certainly will not be there to deal with the fallout. Think about the severe lack of accountability here. When the cameras turn off, that influencer goes right about their day, completely unaffected by the advice they just gave you. Meanwhile, the child is left isolated in a hazardous environment without the critical support they desperately need. These online commentators do not have the professional training to assess risk. They aren't legally or morally accountable for the safety of the children involved. When we substitute necessary professional intervention with viral, engagement-driven, anti-system rhetoric, we are playing a fatal game. We've unpacked the history, the manipulative mechanics of disguised compliance, and the stark reality of what actually happens when we resist intervention. So I want to leave you with a really heavy, provocative question to think about. When a life is genuinely on the line, when a child's safety is actually at stake, will you trust a viral post designed to boost engagement and follower counts? Or will you choose to engage with the systems actually designed to protect the vulnerable? The echo chamber is incredibly loud, but the silence it creates behind closed doors, well, that can be fatal. Make sure you know who you are truly listening to. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and stay focused.